Good morning, students. Hope all of you are fine. Today we'll be continuing with the principles of genetics, and our topic today is experiments of Mendel on theories of inheritance. Gregor Mendel. He was an Austrian monk whose early education was in the monastery. Later, for higher studies, he went to University of Vienna to study science and mathematics. He wanted to pursue the profession of a teacher, which unfortunately he could not. So he returned to the monastery and he started experimenting with the different pea plants. His passion of gardening was also there. And he was very interested and curious about the laws of nature regarding inheritance. His work was much ahead of his time. It was not understood by many of his peers. Later, much later after his death, it was considered that he had done a great job considering the time when he had performed his experiment. So presently he is referred to as the father of modern genetics. In the monastery where he lived, many varieties of pea plants were there. The scientific name of pea plant is Pisum sativum, where P you write with capital P and sativum, the name of the species, we write with a small s. You know, in the book the scientific names are written in italics, but when you write you have to follow this rule. You have to underline both the terms separately. This is a favorite question of the council as to which plant Mendel selected for his experiments in the monastery and why. What are the reasons for selecting the plant? We have already got the name of the plant, pea plant, whose scientific name is Pisum sativum, and the reasons. It was seen that many varieties, at least 7 varieties of pea plants and their alternative characteristics were there. Now, what do we mean by this? Every gene is for a particular character. So, if you consider the character of height of the plant, there can be 2 contrasting forms. A plant can be tall, a plant can be dwarf. One will be a dominant character, the other is a recessive character. We have already seen that the dominant character we represent with capital letters and the recessive character we represent with small letter. So for the character height of the plant, TT will be the tall plant and small t will be the dwarf plant. Other characters that he considered were position of the flower, position. Some flowers were axial in nature. Some flower grew at the tip of the plant. These were terminal. Flower color. Some were purple. Some were white. The pea seed. Color of pea seed. The seed color. Yellow and green. You have seen I have written in the order where the dominant characteristics I have written on the top and the recessive I have written in the lower part. Now when you consider the pea seed, immediately the green color comes to your mind. But you know that greenish yellow is the dominant color and simple green is the recessive color. But for our convenience, we will consider pea seed yellow is the dominant color and green pea seed is the recessive color. Similarly, if you consider the seed shape, the round pea shape is a dominant color and wrinkled pea shape is a recessive color. Similarly, we have got out of 7, we have got 1, this is 2, this is 3, this is 4, this is 5. We have got 2 more points regarding the pod, the pea pod, the fruit or the legume of the pea. Pea pod color, green is dominant and yellow is recessive, and pea pod shape, inflated, a bit swollen. that is the dominant character, and constricted, that is the recessive character. So this was one of the reasons that not only different varieties of plants, their contrasting features were also present. Second, this is a very quick growing crop. Okay, it is easy to grow and maintain. That is the second reason Mendel selected pea plants. Third reason was that many pure varieties of plants were available. Now, what do we mean by pure varieties? You will find that these varieties, they produce similar plants generation after generation. So, for a pure variety, the possible combination of alleles will be both be same. It will be either homozygous dominant for tallness, as we were referring, or homozygous recessive. For when a plant is pure variety, they will be homozygous for a particular character. The alleles will be homozygous in nature. And the fourth reason was that pea plants can be both self and cross-pollinated. Usually, pea plants are self-pollinated plants, but under certain conditions, by interference of man, he interfered with the process of pollination, which we refer to as artificial pollination. But pea plants can be self-pollinated and cross-pollinated to bring about desired results. So that was the reason it was sufficient for him to select, and there were many numbers of pea plants that were growing in the garden. First cross that he did was the monohybrid cross, where he selected one character and the contrasting forms of the character. From the list of 7 characters that we had done, let us select any one character. Say if you select height of the plant, the character height of the plant. So its two possible forms will be tall plants and dwarf plants. Now this is what Mendel always did with his experiments. He always started with pure varieties of plants. That means each plant, whether it is having the dominant form or the recessive form, it will be having homozygous alleles. Okay. So for height of the plant, we can have tall plants with this combination, and we can have dwarf plants with this combination. So when he crossed 2 different plants, gametes that were obtained. What is the process by which gamete is obtained? What type of cell division do we call it? It is meiosis. So we can write on meiosis, gametes that are obtained from this first plant, all gametes will be having T alleles. And from the second plant, because both the alleles are same, gametes will contain at least one allele. Gametes contain one allele of the possible combination. So from the second plant, all gametes will be having small t alleles. We will circle the gametes to show that they are the gametes. So after you have got the gametes, what will happen? This is one plant and this is another plant. So when it is pollination and breeding between 2 different plants, that is cross-pollination. So you will write on cross-pollination, what do we get? We get the first generation. So the first generation is referred to as the F1 generation, the first filial generation, or the first generation of offspring. So when we combine these two, F1 generation will be having plants with this combination. Now please keep in mind, students, it is not a single plant which is produced. A number of plants will be produced and all plants will be having this combination. So one is of a dominant allele, another is a recessive allele. We call this plants formed by mixing of these alleles as hybrid. These were the pure varieties. This is a hybrid variety formed by combination of different alleles where the alleles are different. This genotype we call as heterozygous dominant because both the alleles are different. And because of this combination, what is the character expressed? What is the phenotype? You will find all plants will be tall plants. Why? Because it is having one dominant allele and one recessive allele. This dominant allele is suppressing the recessive allele, so the dominant character is expressed. In fact, this is the basis of Mendel's first law, which we call as law of dominance, which states that when a contrasting pair of characters are present, the different contrasting pairs for a particular character is present, one character is always expressed, which is the dominant one. In this case, tallness. And the character which is not expressed is the recessive one. The one which is suppressed is the recessive one, which can only be expressed. This character can only be expressed when it is homozygous recessive for that particular character. So that is what Mendel's law of dominance states. So if you move on to the next generation, so for F2 generation we need the gametes. So you will find after we have got the F1 generation, plants of the F1 generation, they are made to undergo self-pollination. Initially we started with cross-pollination in F1 generation. To get F2 generation, the next generation or second filial generation, the plants will be self-pollinated. For our convenience, let us take two different, we are taking plants with same combination. So what will be the possible combination of gametes? This plant will be having capital T and small t. This plants will be having once again capital T and small t. Okay. So what will be the possible combination? One gamete from each plant, from one plant will combine with the gametes of the other plant. So what we are getting in F2 generation, if you consider this combination, first plant will be having this combination, second plant will be having capital T, small t. This when it combines with this, we get capital T and small t again. And this when it combines with the last one, we are getting small t and small t. So what is the genotype? This is homozygous dominant. These two are heterozygous dominant. This is homozygous recessive. So if this is the genotype, genotypic ratio will be 1:2:1. What are the phenotype? This plant and this plant, these three plants, they will be tall and one plant is dwarf. So if that is the phenotype, phenotypic ratio will be 3:1. So the ratio that is obtained, okay, the ratio that is obtained when we cross the alternative forms of a same character is called as the monohybrid ratio. And monohybrid ratio, you need to find out the genotype and the phenotype from which the respective genotypic and phenotypic ratio can be obtained. Okay. Next, you'll find from here the second law of Mendel can be derived, which states that this second law, first law was the law of dominance. The second law is law of segregation, also known as law of purity of gametes. Okay, whenever you are having a pair of factors, so gamete will contain one allele of the pair of factors. The pair of factors which are present, the pair of alleles, let us consider, because Mendel referred to them as the factors. He did not know about the alleles at that time. So the gametes that are formed will contain one allele from the pair of factors. In this case, when you consider a pure variety, because both the alleles are similar, all the gametes will be having T combination. But if you consider the heterozygous case, here you will find some gametes will be having capital T and some gametes will be having small t. Why it is also called as the purity of gamete? So gamete is pure for a particular character. It is having one particular trait. And only when they combine at random during fertilization, the resulting zygote formed will be having a combination of these alleles by combination or fertilization of the gametes. So students, we have practiced, we have shown it with the help of one. Same thing we can do it with the help of a Punnett square for F1 generation in case of pure varieties of plants. If you do a Punnett square, you will find for one plant the gametes will be capital T and capital T, and this side, if you consider it to be the male or the female or the other plant, this will be small t and small t. So F1 generation, all the possible combinations will be like we have observed previously, all will be heterozygous dominant for the character and all plants will be tall. Now if on selfing, what did we see for F2 generation? What were the possible combination of gametes? If this is the plant, so some gametes will be having capital T, some will be having small t. So you will find one side we will be having this combination, other side we will be having the same combination because it is self-pollination. So on combination, we will be having two capital T, small t 2, small t 1. That is one homozygous dominant, two heterozygous dominant, one homozygous recessive with the genotype. This being the genotype, genotypic ratio is 1:2:1. And phenotype, these three plants, they are tall. So these three are tall plants. So 3 tall and 1 dwarf plant. So the phenotypic ratio is 3:1. If it is not specified, you can do the one that I have shown here with the cross, or you can do the Punnett square. Punnett square, it is easy, it is neatly done. But if you are comfortable with the other one, you can do any one unless it is specified that show the cross with the help of the Punnett square. So you can practice with any of the 6 characters that are there, taking the alternative forms of the same character. Hope you have understood, students. Bye for now. Thank you.